So great, guys. What we wanted to cover here was some good discussion. But if you guys have any quiz questions for us, which you want to kind of front load, we are happy to do that. Any questions? We would like to flip with your permission. Like we can really kind of have any questions, guys, from the audience. Usually people want to do it at the end of the session. We want to do it in the beginning. Anyone? No? No interest? They don't want to hear us.
Oh, they're just shy.
They're shy.
There we go.
Yeah.
Just yell it out.
Can somebody give a mic, please? Yeah. Just introduce yourself, what are you doing, and then ask question. Sure.
My name is Sai. I I'm building a startup named Metasci Solutions, and I'm majorly in the metaverse and XR spectrum. I basically consult metaverse companies, and I'm also building my own product, which will be launched next year. Especially on my question is rounded around. Like I'm new to the Aptos ecosystem, to be honest. So in the Web3 gaming front, what are the ventures that Aptos is doing, and also on the metaverse part, is Aptos is part of that ecosystem? Well, was curious on that.
Okay, I'll take that one. Or actually, you might be, I don't know. Look, so gaming is a really important part of Web3, and the reason is fairly obvious, right? Economies in gaming have been existing for a long period of time. You have assets, you have even coins that are all being there virtualized, and an economy around them. And so for that to be natural for Web3 is kind of straightforward and obvious. But what's not so obvious is thinking about the way that the interoperability plays into things. And so this is an area that's somewhat untapped. How do I take my assets in game A, use them in game B, and use them in application C, which has nothing to do with gaming whatsoever? And so that's something that we've been very proud to partner with companies like KGen, Stan, others in the space around building out larger economies that even supersede what gaming is going to do. And gaming is just one kind of aspect of the idea that those virtual economies are going to be living through.
Yeah. And just to build on that, the core idea about ownership of assets and being able to kind of really use it across applications makes it a very powerful open ecosystem of games, which in current system is very closed. And I think that's the core use case which blockchain can do it. Aptos, with its huge amount of internet-like infrastructure, can kind of deliver that transactions without a delay, information at a speed of light. I think that's what we need from a gaming use case. Obviously, we need games. We need games to be having embraced that kind of an open economy. But these two things will go in parallel. And typically, infrastructure gets solved much faster. And then the content really kind of happens. So any more before I kind of really have Avery on the spotlight? Yep.
Hello, so dumbing it down from the question he just asked, I am newer than him in the Aptos ecosystem as well. So given that I've worked extensively in the ERC20 as well as BSC, what specific does Aptos give me that platforms like Polygon or Avalanche do not? And then how can I leverage it to the best? So what is it, what are the use cases that you thought of when you developed the software for yourself?
So great question. I think this will require a bit of a long answer, so pardon me for this. I was at Meta before I worked on Aptos for 10 years. And so when I was at Meta, I worked on data infrastructure at a product, supporting exabytes of data being used to process and analyze for different products in this space, and scaling to more than 500,000 machines to develop these infrastructure. In 2018, we started the Libra DM project. And so I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but that was an idea of building a 24/7 remittance platform around the world with some of the largest companies, including Visa, MasterCard, Uber, and others. In order to do that, we built out a new blockchain, which we call the DM blockchain, a new language called Move. And the reason for that, instead of using existing infrastructure, was because the 15 TPS of Ethereum and Bitcoin couldn't support the billions of people that use Facebook on a daily basis. And so we felt like there's substantial changes need to be for Web3 that would enable the use cases of the future. Specifically, improving the developer platform. You can't build on existing infrastructure that well. There's so many ways to shoot yourself in the foot. If you're developed in today's world on Rust or C++ or Java, you know there's so many bugs. That's a natural part of the building process. That's not acceptable for Web3. We have to have a new way of developing. And on top of that, we have to have infrastructure that supports the scale of these web apps. So Facebook can't build on something that's going to support 15 TPS and then have fees go to the moon. That's not possible. So building out infrastructure that scales alongside the same way that cloud does for infrastructure needs is needed to actually radicalize and support 5 billion internet users across the planet.
Then what is the current TPS?
Sorry, just to kind of make it simple for you from a developer point of view. Last 30 days, we had 1.3 million unique active wallets. We had roughly around, let's say, 10 million transactions. And if I were to do it on any other chain, the business model won't help me. The gas fees will kill me. Now, Aptos, I was able to kind of really achieve those transactions at scale without really having queuing issues. So it's a very simple answer. Practically, this is what Aptos is able to deliver versus other chains.
Manish, did your fees go up?
Now,
Did you have any on calls? Like, did you wake up in the middle of the night where things went bad?
I didn't have to call Avery or ping Avery at all, right?
That's the way things should be, right? When you develop at scale.
So what's the current TPS at Aptos?
It varies depending on the workload, but I think today it's roughly around 50 TPS. But it's also important to note that Aptos has set the daily mainnet record for TPS in a single day. It holds the top 4 records for it. So the top was actually accomplished sometime, I think, in August, around 326 million transactions in a single day. That was over 3,700 transactions per second. No issues, no gas fee rises, no one called me in the middle of the night. It was just working smoothly and flawlessly. And so that's the kind of thing that we want to build towards. And actually in December, we ran a PreviewNet test, which did more than 2 billion transactions in a single day with the latest software stack. That's more than Visa, MasterCard, and every other credit card processor put together combined. So Aptos is developed for scale, and when Manish gets to 1 billion users, we'll be there for him.
Yeah, we will. Naresh, did you kind of plug him for this question? He asked a question which Avery was wanting me to ask, and I said, no, I'm not going to ask. Yeah. So, guys, I have got a duct tape because Aptos is doing super good, and I'm sure Avery will like to have his banana very soon. So how many of you have got banana for Avery to eat his own banana and put then duct tape? Avery, have you got your own banana? You're going to be rich man very soon.
No, I think Justin ate it actually. So
No?
there's no other bananas left.
No bananas left?
No.
Okay, so what's your next fruit?
I don't know. Someone mint a new NFT, and we'll figure out what to do with
You'll
it.
figure out. Guys, he's the next guy who's going to really put some fruit on a duct tape and make a note of it and follow him on Twitter. Yeah. So, and my understanding is that Bitcoin is like store of value now. ETH is utility. Solana IC is almost built like cult. What is Aptos?
Aptos is the new economy, simply put.
Explain more.
So we believe that while you can do a whole lot of things on Aptos, from gaming to AI, traditional media to all kinds of different things, and we see all those things happening on Aptos, the new economy to us means focusing on a couple key areas: finance, marketing, advertisement, loyalty, all the things that are kind of in a virtuous cycle of products. And let me kind of just double into that, maybe using KGen as an example. KGen builds an amazing gaming network of infrastructure, reputation scores, an ability for gamers to kind of connect to each other through different games and different products. That produces a lot of connections in a social network. That produces a way for them to communicate with each other. That produces an opportunity to provide loyalty points, whether it's KGen token or there's other things around that. Now there's an opportunity for them to produce advertising platforms around it. How do we drop coupons to those people? How do we drop coupons from even other games that want to build on top of KGen? And then finally, you can think about commerce as a way of supporting different kinds of virtual economies and items that are sold there. And so things like USDT that have come to Aptos, USDC that have come to Aptos, Hong Kong stable dollar, and building out the platform and rails to support this infrastructure is also a key piece of this kind of interesting virtuous cycle of new economic metrics and token distributions. So for us, Aptos is the new economy, and we're looking forward to pushing that vision forward in the coming years.
That's beautifully. I I think I'll take a snippet from Naresh about KGen and I'll start using it. Thank you so much for that. So, new economy, what are the 2, 3 use cases you're super excited, which are already you're seeing some green shoots on Aptos and let's say next 24 months, because I'm not saying 5 years in crypto, we all know, don't know what's going to happen. But next 24 months, what's the 3 use cases which you see and which is going to really blow this new internet economy kind of thingy?
It's really hard to select from all the different things that are going in Aptos, actually. There's a lot of really cool things. But if I could pick a couple from different segments of the market, obviously KGen's one we're excited about. I'm sure you'll talk about that much more. Another one that's really interesting is we have a partnership with NBC Universal. And then when we talk about scale again, NBC is one of the largest, if not the largest, content creator in the world. They're very interested in leveraging Aptos to support their variety of different products. They have Rotten Tomatoes, they have different theme parks, they have content they create, and they want to tie these together through global identity. And they want to support loyalty programs around that. And that, we're talking about the scale of tens of millions of customers and potentially lots and lots of transactions going forward from that. So that's one use case I'm super excited about. Another one is going to be, that was launched recently, called Emoji Coin. So some of you are very into the meme coin movement, are excited about token launches. Emoji Coin is a new take on that, where it's not going to be about people sitting in corners getting whipped to death while you kind of increase their price of their token. More about how you think about kind of nonverbal communication through these emojis, which we use for our messaging apps and daily communications. Try out the platform, emojicoin.fun, something that is really a lot of fun and a new take on building communities around specifically emojis. Those are a couple that come to mind.
Emojis is a beautiful idea, and it takes away the toxicity which unfortunately has come in with some of the meme coins. But for these kind of things to really scale and kind of become wildfire, you need a massive community. And how is Aptos kind of really looking at it? And I'm sure there's nobody in this room will disagree that community is the essence of the blockchain and Web3 and everything. How are you building community for developers, fan, cult, which is going to be really driving this?
Community is obviously very important for every ecosystem, for KGen, for Aptos, and for everything else around the space. For us, we think about community as being a grassroots effort, being present in locales. Just yesterday, I was at a Move developer meetup with, I think, almost 100 people, really learning about the benefits of Aptos, building in the space, getting excited about that. Those kind of things are really important to getting to know each other, and also not just to know me or to know the team, but to know the other builders in the space. During the Unfold hackathon that happened just a couple days ago, it wasn't supported by people from Palo Alto, New York. It was supported by the local developers in Jewel Finance and others in the area who came to help more than 40 projects getting launched in about 30 hours or so. And that's the kind of thing that we think is long-lasting, builds connections, and then really ties to a specific area in a really powerful way.
So guys, from my experience, 15 years, whenever there is a new ecosystem getting built, there's a beautiful opportunity for developers, builders like us to kind of really understand that ecosystem, partner with that ecosystem. Because when it's early, you will have Avery really having the meetings with 100 guys. 6 years, 5 years, 7 years from now, you will not be able to see Avery, right? And that's the beauty of a growing ecosystem, when you can take insights from very, very, very committed people, passionate people who are building it. And I think that's why when we were looking at what's going to be the right partner, right home for us, we really loved you and Mo, and we kind of really said, it's a growing ecosystem, we are hungry, you are hungry, let's kind of make it big together. So Naresh is here, I don't know where he has gone, but what Vinayak and Naresh tell me that there's a massive effort going to happen in India to augment team on ground, to really kind of make that Aptos presence, boots on ground very big. And I have met him now 3 times in India. So it's like he's not very far. From a point of view of, I keep meeting a lot of investors. And from my past experience also, I've been in touch with marquee VCs, and you have been in touch with marquee VCs. The constant thing which I keep hearing is that the true use case which has emerged so far is only the stable coin. Uh, A, do you agree with that? B, if yes, what could be the next mainstream use case which you think can really convince institutional money at scale to come into this sector?
So I definitely think scalable coin is an important use case. The other one that's obvious is speculation. Right? Speculation is a massive use case for Web3. But we've got to move not just, those things are going to be important. They're going to always be there. And moving beyond that, it's going to be utility. And so when we talk again about that kind of new economy of finance, loyalty, marketing, commerce, that to me is going to be the thing that really shows that this space has a tremendous amount of value. Advertising networks generate a huge amount of revenue for Web3. It's something that's ripe to be disrupted. When we think about the way the marketing channels are used, distribution is there, something exactly what KGen is entering into and pushing forward with. And on this point, there are going to be Web3 companies that are going to be revenue generating and profitable. Manish, as one of the few ones in that space, I'd really like to hear your thoughts on how you think about that.
I didn't expect that. This was a googly. Like my question coming back to me. So, see, I think the mainstream stablecoin use case is easy because it creates for large, medium, small, all enterprises, cross-border transactions. Quickly, the working capital doesn't get logged. Your payment leakages are thing. I would say we are trying to disrupt ad model, which has been running for 40 years, but we are very still early. The way we have to get to a 300 million users, what you keep telling me, billion users, then only we can think that we are anywhere close to disrupting a Meta and a Google or any one of those sorts. But the belief of ownership leading to economic value sharing, whether it's coupons, rewards, loyalty, whichever name you want to give it, is the essence of that. In the current value chain, neither the publishers are happy nor the gamers are happy. And if both sides are not happy, then somebody needs to disrupt. And I think blockchain as a technology enables people like us to go and disrupt it. And which is why I'm not surprised that less than 2 years, we are now $14-15 million ARR. We are profitable for last 5 months because publishers are seeing value, gamers are seeing benefit, and we are still not token launch, which can kick in another meta loop for both sides to get more benefit. So yes, and we have not spent a single money Avery on consumer acquisition. It's been $0. That's why when in 2020 I started looking at Web3, I said, if you have to do paid marketing for a Web3 project to get a community, then you're doing something fundamentally wrong. So yeah, that's what we have been kind of really doing it.
I think for all of you here, you should be really inspired by this vision. It is not overstated to say that probably less than 1% of Web3 startups are profitable. And the Manish team, Ishank, and the KGen team have been able to achieve this in a very, very short period of time. So there's a lot of lessons here to be learned.
Thank you. Any questions, guys, from the audience? Yes? Please.
Hi. My name is Vidyanand. So my question is regarding Move programming language. So it's a new programming language. So when the blockchain comes with a new programming language, there is always that problem of adoption. For a new startup, like they have to bring in a new person, resource, who is good in programming language, in a Move programming language to write their smart contracts. For a bigger company also the same thing happens. So do you see that as a problem? If we can write smart contracts in like most used programming languages like Python or TypeScript, so will that improve your adoption? So do you see Move as a problem or yeah, that's my question. I hope I'm clear.
No, this is a great question. I think I get this question a lot, so it's worth answering in detail. So quick question for you, actually. Do you program?
A little bit front end.
How many languages do you program in?
I do mostly in JavaScript.
JavaScript, okay. But you know more than one language, right? Just to be,
yeah.
Okay. I think that's something that is important to note, right? Like when I code, I've coded in probably 10 different languages. It's not about the language you kind of use. There's a language for every There's a tool for kind of everything you want to accomplish, and you pick the right language for that tool. The reason why we decided to do Move, and I kind of go back to the thesis, is that we felt that what existed was not good enough. It was not something that prevented you from having kind of foot guns to shoot yourself with. We've seen the number of attacks, especially on bridges in EVM space, where billions of dollars have been lost. And that, to me, means that you can't just take an existing language off the shelf, repurpose it for Web3, and expect to have the same, better outcomes out of it. We had to do something from the ground up that was much safer. And so when you think about it, for those of you who know Rust is kind of a high barrier to entry, but it is it's something that once you kind of get past the compilation phase, you have a higher confidence that what operates in production is going to be much more scalable and performant for you. And so taking those kind of principles for Move, we wanted something that was going to be simple, easy, and maybe not as feature-filled, but it would be something that would have much less chance of you making mistakes, much less chance of you kind of having errors and providing a really poor user experience. In this space, one bad user experience can kill your entire project, right? If you lose you holding custody of funds for users and those are gone, your product is basically gone. And so the game is very different from a traditional programming language. You have to develop for a different space and a different kind of problem set, and that's why Move needs to exist. As far as Move adoption, we haven't had any problems with it. We've seen a huge ecosystem in India itself developing. There are more than 40 ecosystem projects building on Aptos today using Move, more than 500 open source developers in India building with Move, and 7 of the top 10 dApps in Aptos are from Indian developers and from the Move ecosystem. We have KGen here, of course, Move. They have never called us a single time to ask us how to do anything with Move, as far as I know. So we don't think it's a barrier to adoption today. It is actually something that enables faster adoption from ideation all the way to production.
Just to kind of build on from, I have left programming long back, so take it with a pinch of salt. But my team, they till like say what, 9 months, 7 months back, they didn't have any idea about Move. We were working on Solidity, Rust. But for them to really transition to developing smart contracts on Move was, I will not say it was an overnight, but it was not difficult that they had to really keep doing the customer support of Aptos, DevRel support of Aptos, ki we don't know this, we don't know that. I think it's a question of intent, that do we want to make that effort or don't we want to make that effort? It's not a question of understanding the syntax and why the syntax is difficult to learn. Now, what Aptos and team is going to solve for, hopefully, is the intent, that why should more and more developers really kind of take that effort to learn Move. And I think that's where the true definition of community building, which we just spoke about, should come in.
Hi, Avery. My name is Satyajit Das. My main question is,
Sorry, can you say what do you work on also?
I'm a core developer in BNB chain. My main question to you is, what's the key technological differentiator between Aptos and the other L1 blockchains? Because you mentioned Aptos has some numbers in terms of performance, which is very difficult for other L1 blockchains. So I'm just curious on how exactly you're achieving that.
Great. So I think the 3 things a blockchain kind of needs to do is going to be scale. It needs to be providing very low latency of transactions, and it needs to be able to provide low costs. I mean, I think these things are kind of, and then of course security, but that's kind of a default. And in many ways, this kind of is very similar to cloud infrastructure, right? And you think about getting access to different kinds of machines. And so in order to kind of get where we want to be on these metrics, we had to create a completely new stack. We built a pipeline infrastructure that is similar to the way you think about a CPU, a superscalar infrastructure. You have in a CPU kind of infection, fetch, decode, process, ALUs. You have different kinds of processors there. We built a similar stack with Aptos where you have data dissemination, you have ordering, you have parallel execution, bulk storage, and then proof generation. And by having these separate stages, you can then parallelize all those stages together. We also have a huge advantage in having the top people in the world building on the top consensus protocols, parallel execution, and all those things going forward. And one of our key innovations is around what we call dynamic parallelism, a new form of parallelism enabled by block STM technology that supports very, very high throughput. And throughput and costs are so related because if you don't have enough throughput, you have demand-based costs that drives up the cost of the infrastructure when you reach kind of scale at load. And so for us, being able to push that scale boundary all the way to tens of thousands or transactions beyond that, means that costs always remain extremely low. A payment transaction can be 9 gas units, or fraction of a cent. And so for us, that's really important to build things that can't be built in any other L1 today. But the other areas around user interfaces and user infrastructure, we can't get by with the existing mnemonics, the passkeys, and things like that going forward. We have to have new methods of authentication. And so Aptos has introduced things like Aptos Connect, Aptos Keyless, which allow you to log in, say, with your Google account, your Apple account, and have it tied with a zero-knowledge proof to a backend blockchain account to make it much easier for you to access from a user experience perspective. And developers like our friends at KGen can build out a very native experience for their platform to interface with Aptos without any user needing to know that it's Aptos or any other kind of Web3 infrastructure in the backend.
Thank you.
Right at the back.
Thanks for a great session so far. Probably a question to Avery. What about institutional adoption in terms of Aptos? If you can share a bit more in terms of what are the use cases you're seeing and how Aptos is looking forward to supporting institutional adoption. Happy to know about that.
Can you just introduce yourself, please?
My name is Siddharth. I'm a director. I lead crypto blockchain engineering at KPMG.
Oh, great.
Got it. Thank you.
Great question. So we definitely have a very budding ecosystem, but institutions are an area that I think kind of has also been important to us given our kind of time at Libra and Diem, where we work with mostly institutional partners like Uber and Lyft. So today we have a number of institutional partners. We have actually just announced kind of recently that BlackRock is issuing BUIDL fund on top of Aptos. Franklin Templeton has issued a money market fund on top of Aptos. We described it and talked a little bit about NBC Universal, but on Aptos, and some folks like Lotte, who's the largest retailer in South Korea, and thinking about different kinds of loyalty programs on top of Aptos. So it's any use case that kind of requires massive scale, enterprise-grade reliability, and extremely low latency and low fees, I think works really well for Aptos. And of course, industrial use cases, large-scale use cases are a big part of that.
So that just to kind of add on what Avery is saying. For example, I understand media space very well. And media always has a fundamental issue of how do I create more retention? How do I create more time spent? And if you are able to convert a time spent into a gamification through a reward loyalty at scale, then that's a clear use case for any such company which is grappling with this problem statement. So we could really have behavior gamification through rewards at scale on blockchain is a framework which you can use. Anybody else?
Hey, so first of all, to introduce myself, I'm Shubham, and I have a design firm which is specifically focused towards Web3. So I have two questions, one from Avery and one from you, Manish, sorry. And so the first question is, I was hoping to hear a little bit about the convolution of both AI as well as the Web3 space, not just specifically to Aptos, but the overall ecosystem as a whole. And secondly, Manish, you started a company, first of all, how many years ago? And what was the mindset that, that enabled you to reach profitability eventually, which most companies struggle with?
I go first?
My answer's gonna be long, sorry.
This is the third one. This is not the first one. What inspires me is in morning, if I don't have any problem to solve, I feel very bored. So as simple as that, adrenaline junkie, you need to do something unknown. That's what gives me drive. And that's the reason I started this 2 years back after taking Nazara public. Running it for 4 quarters, I was getting bored. And blockchain was beautiful, wild, wild west for me to really kind of jump into it. Profitability, in my opinion, is my way of life. I can't think of a business, I'm a baniya. And as a simple baniya means that money has to come in your cash flow. It has to come in your good luck. And if money at the end of the day is not coming, then you're running something which I don't understand. And I think that's the DNA. And that's why anything we do, product and revenue have to go hand in hand. Or if I have to prioritize, revenue will be prioritized.
Thanks.
AI and blockchain is definitely the buzzwords of the day across many spaces. And I worked in data infrastructure, as I mentioned, at Meta for a long time. I worked on machine learning to some degree stochastic gradient descent and k-means clustering, things like that. When you kind of look at it, though, there's a lot of hype around the LLMs, but the real thing that I think is interesting is around the data that is used to be trained with. And this is where blockchain can help a lot. Today, we're creating content, we're talking, this will be put onto video, this will go into some kind of maybe news article. It'll be then trained by a model and answer a couple of questions about, hey, what did Manish talk about when he was on stage with Avery mentioning bananas? And so there's going to be a question about whether we want that content to be allowed, whether we want that content to be trained on. And so this is a perfect use case for blockchains. They're immutable. They provide a center of control, which no one can deny. It's interoperable, anyone can access it. And so as a natural backend for this kind of information, it's perfect. And for data lineage, and to see like, was that content copied, modified, generated, it makes perfect sense for blockchain to be the kind of backend for that. The main thing here is, can it scale? Facebook generates more than 4 billion pieces of unique content per day. If you're going to add kind of controls around each of those pieces of data, there's going to be high transaction throughput. There's going to be costs involved. And that's, again, where we build something in Aptos, which we believe is used to support these kind of use cases, very important. There's companies like Overlay, small startups that are kind of building around content creation, content protection. They're like former National Geographic photographers and other content creators, really cool people that are trying to solve this problem using the Aptos technology stack, and we're really excited about being a part of their efforts in this space.
Well, that kind of references the role that blockchain can play in AI. What do you think about the reversal of it? So are you imagining that AI can eventually help blockchain itself to perform better because of its predictive powers?
I think possibly one day, but the obvious use case for AI to help blockchain today is actually a response to the question earlier. How do we get more Move developers in the space? So when you think about going from language to language to language, when you have AI-based systems, it's so much easier to ask it, hey, I've got this program in JavaScript, how do I translate this to Move today? And then an AI system that can do that or show you the pieces of how that might make sense is kind of obvious. So having Copilot type integration into IDEs, having support for just even AI-based answers to where content can be lived, like how do you leverage Aptos' very cool randomness generator, how do you use the keyless technology stack, how do you use passkeys with Aptos, and having that generate some sample code that integrates into your dApp, and making this process super simple and super easy, and now you get to deployment in a couple of days. That's something that is going to be very obvious to helping the blockchain integration.
Awesome.
Guys, one last question. Yep.
Yeah. I am Srini, and just like I'm an NFT collector, I'm not a developer or anything. And I mean, you spoke about Justin, I'm wearing the Tron t-shirt, so not the right t-shirt for this audience, I guess. But
Gives you some new swag.
yeah, so I just wanted to know a little more about how Aptos NFTs are different, and like how Ethereum, Solana, Bitcoin are there, right? Everybody goes there. But how can we move into real-world assets with Aptos NFTs? Like, is there any thing on that? If you can throw some light on that.
Yeah, NFTs, have been used a lot for kind of profile pics and things like that in the past, but we feel like in order to kind of unlock the value of NFTs, we got to do much more with them. There have to be new standards around them. So having them be composable, having them be modifiable easily, and being able to kind of support building blocks of whether it's gaming infrastructure or other use cases, and then having those NFTs being cross-useful across applications is something we need to keep pushing more and more towards. It can't just be a profile picture for you, right? It's got to be adding value in different applications across Web3 space. And so the fact that Move allows everything to be kind of object-based, composable, is something that we think is a game changer when it comes to NFT platforms. Something we'll keep pushing forward on, and there's a lot of interesting applications coming forward with that technology.
Anyone else? Or we can... Okay, just last question.
No, maybe I can ask you a question before. Manish, today you've definitely highlighted you're doing really well with over 1 million monthly active users on KGen. What's the path to getting to 10 million users, 100 million users, and 1 billion users in this space?
So the slight correction. Today we have 3.4 million monthly active.
My mistake, sorry about that.
1.1 is on Aptos. So yes, we see the way we have gone through this is a very simple thing, what I was explaining to Siddharth's question. I've been really kind of teaching gamification in few colleges. And my fundamental thesis is that if there is an existing behavior, you need certain amount of incentive structures to reinforce that behavior. And those incentive structures, if they are transparent, both in terms of rewarding, how, and then the redemption, people will have more trust. So that's the framework I think we can really apply to all gaming Web2 projects, every kind of destination which is needing to kind of really do that, and our ability to create protocols which are creating one view of that user across these multiple applications is what the system design we have done. And today, when we are talking about Global South, that's our playground. India, LATAM, Middle East, Southeast Asia, our ability to kind of really find these kind of developers who are stuck in their orbit, who are not able to see enough revenues to create an escape velocity. If with the time spent increase, they are able to do it, they will adopt this protocol. So I think that's how you can reach to 100 million. A billion is what I need to think, right?
Next year.
Billion is a tough challenge. Yesterday night you threw at me, and I've been still thinking about how to kind of get to that. But 100 million is something which I'm very, very clear as a path, as a line of sight. And that line of sight is not distant future. It could be 24 months. This is what we can really do that with your infrastructure.
Well, what was it in 24 months then?
Any questions last? Otherwise, I will kind of, yep. We're running out of time. I'm getting bad looks from the panel.
I think I want to understand the 5-year vision of Aptos. Say, as the regulation curtains are raising in various countries, I am pretty sure the adoption will spike. How does 2030 look like for Aptos and for the blockchain and the Web3 ecosystem?
2030, I think Ethereum put their plans out for that one recently. We don't plan that far in advance, just to be honest with you. I think it may take to 2030 to hit some of these goals, but a couple of key things I want to share. Million TPS should be supported in a mainnet in the next couple of years. I'm looking at you, Manu, to make sure that happens. We should be able to support the kind of scalability that's necessary for any application in the internet. So whether Facebook, YouTube, Google wants to actually deploy, or even large language models want to support massive amounts of scale there, supporting terabytes of data on the blockchain with reasonable costs is going to be something important. We want to see a lot of the financial rails moving to something like an Aptos because the costs are there, the costs are better. The settlement is faster. You take away settlement risk. All these things should be there, and then you're going to see, I think, what we call Aptos. I shouldn't talk too much about that. I'll get their looks from our media team. Aptos is something we'll be announcing at some point in terms of what it means for a financial future for digital assets. But we're not going to take till 2020 to accomplish that. We're going to do it a lot faster because we have an incredible team and super dedicated people in the space.